Japan scraps plan to pay Tokyo women to marry rural men. Wow. It's pretty crazy when the government is actively trying to get you a girl. But apparently, they weren't offering enough yen to make up for the spotty Wi-Fi and having to get up to milk cows at dawn. Tokyo women said, hell nah, we ain't living that far from sushi delivery, the nightlife, or our favorite Starbucks. Sounds like Japanese men have learned, just because you can pay for a happy ending, doesn't mean you can Venmo your way to a happily ever after. What the fuck is up, internet? Welcome to the channel, and welcome to this episode of Crazy Ass News. The whole idea behind this series is that I scour the internet for crazy, recent, under-the-radar news stories that I don't know anything about. I pick articles based solely on their headlines, and then I read through them while talking shit the whole time. A widely ridiculed Japanese government idea to lure Tokyo women into marrying men in rural areas by offering cash payouts and train tickets to matchmaking events has been scrapped, officials said Friday. Matchmaking events. I wonder if that means, it's a crazy ass idea. But if they're paying for train tickets out to these matchmaking events, it sounds to me like they have a chance to pick. It's not like arranged marriages. Like they could pick a guy, right? At least they have that kind of that kind of power within this fucking scheme. It sounds pretty crazy. But you get to travel, free travel, even if you just went out there to see what's up. Bureaucrats have envisioned payments of up to 600,000 yen, or 4,140 bucks, for women to get married and settle outside of Tokyo as part of efforts to reduce a yawning countryside gender gap, local media reported. Yawning countryside gender gap? That just means it's getting bigger, I guess. That's the first time I've ever heard yawning, and that as getting bigger. That's pretty wild. Why didn't they just say rising countryside gender gap? Yawning sounds crazy. Yeah, a lot of these girls don't want to live out there. Japan's pretty small, though. Right? So, you got Nagasaki, Hiroshima, Tokyo, and then what? The rest of it is just... It's like an island, right? So you got... Is it an island? I think Japan's an island. Hold on. Right, so you got... Where's the... Nagasaki, Hiroshima, Osaka, I've heard of that, Tokyo. But yeah, so the rest of it is all countryside? These Sendaya, I think I've heard of that. Oki Islands, and it's Matsuyama, that's a whole nother island. There's three different, three islands? And they got these little guys around on the outskirts. Huh. Interesting. So I wonder where the fuck is the countryside at that these chicks don't want to move to? They just want to live in the city. I guess you can't really blame them. Hanako Jimmy, Minister of State for Regional Revitalization, said Friday she had instructed officials to review the plan and insisted that reports about the size of payments were not true. I'm confused. She has an issue with the amount of payment instead of being like, bro, we can't pay girls to go marry farmers. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? But she just has a problem with the size of the payments? That's pretty crazy. The media leaks about the scheme this week drew scorn on social media, where critics saw it as typical in a country where men dominate politics and other areas more than any other major industrialized economy. There's a lot of countries like that, where, there's only a handful where men aren't in control, even nowadays. I mean, it is a goofy ass idea. I'm surprised it got to the point where people were actually talking about it. You would think that. I mean, nowadays though, I mean, people are so desperate to figure shit out and get power and get elected that they're willing to promise anything. This could have just been something somebody said. Bureaucrats and envision payments though. Like, who are these bureaucrats? Interesting. Did they think independent, motivated, and educated women in the city would think, what? If I marry a local man and move to the countryside, I'll get 600,000 yen? I'll do it. Are they serious? Remarked one user on Twitter. It's not X, it's Twitter still. Yeah, you have to wait for the rest of us who've been calling it Twitter this whole time to die before people just start calling it X, because we're just not going to. Motivated and educated women. Independent I mean, they weren't trying to get these ones. The independent, motivated, and educated ones. They were trying to get the ones that needed a couple extra bucks and was willing to live in the countryside. I mean, $4,000 ain't doing it, right? I mean, that couldn't have been what they were planning on doing. They probably just wanted... They're desperate for any women out there. They're just hoping to get just a couple. Get them to one of these matchmaking events and see what happens. Another said, do they still not get it? This is something people who see women as valuable only if they give birth would come up with. Well, I mean, it just said marriage. They weren't really talking about fucking. I mean, you would assume that's probably what they meant, though. Marriage. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, they definitely see women as some kind of, like, a resource, right? I mean, that's what this sounds like. These women are more of a resource than, like, independent individuals trying to live their own fucking life, but... Then again, different things motivate different people. $4,000, you know what I mean? There could be some independent, motivated, educated women that were just like, I mean, you've seen the Hallmark commercials, right? They're the Hallmark holiday movies where the girl goes home to the small town and falls in love. I mean, maybe that's what inspired this whole thing. They're like, we gotta get some of these rich women into the country and fucking marry their high school sweethearts. Maybe that was their plan. Many rural areas in the world's fourth biggest economy are facing a depopulation crisis, with some small towns having hardly any or even zero children. Oh shit. I mean, this is gonna... I always end up going on a rant about some crazy ass thought I have in these videos, but like, yeah, I'm cool with not having kids for a while, right? Like, they paint this as like a bad thing, even zero children. Well, that means you're not making your own competition, right? Like these small towns where there's like nobody, well, if you don't have kids, then there's more resources available to the adults there. I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of like scientific thing I'm missing in my evaluation of this, but I'm down with for like everybody to not have kids for like a year, right? Like, let's go back to where, you know, we've been making kids forever, constantly, nonstop, like a fucking, like we're fucking, it's an industry. Let's take a break, take a breath, you know what I mean? And then see where we're at. See if we're in a space where we're responsible enough to have kids, because I don't think we are. Right, things have been moving at a pretty fast clip, and I don't think parents can keep up. I really don't. One cause is that more young women than young men leave the villages and small towns they grew up in and move to big cities, especially Tokyo, for better opportunities in higher education and work. I mean, you can't blame them. Why are the dudes sticking around? Dudes just want to stay. They're probably like, oh man, it's fucking quiet here. Maybe they're not into going to the city. They like the villages. I'm surprised there's a lot of villages in Tokyo or in Japan. Japan seems like a pretty small country. You would think that it would be like overpopulated if nothing else, but I guess that's just Tokyo. Interesting. More than 40% of Japanese municipalities are at risk of disappearing due to the expected drop in number of women in their late 20s and 30s, a study by a private sector expert panel suggested in April. Yeah, I'm not really seeing a downside, man. The risk of disappearing? Yeah, I feel like... Yeah, we can like totally do without all these fucking kids, man, if you ask me. I mean, I think we've just been overdoing it. It's fucked up to say, but I mean, I'm not like, I don't like hate kids. I just don't think we need so many. I just don't think we need so many. I get being nervous about like towns disappearing and shit. But like, that's just the nature of the beast. So you're just gonna have more people in Tokyo, which will make, you know, they'll have to like, Tokyo will have to expand. Right? And then these small villages, which I'm really surprised there are anyway, eventually the cities will start encroaching on these places. But then again, I mean, you might need the farmland and don't want that expansion to happen. So it's like, how do you square that hole? You want women to move to the countryside so they make more kids. But I mean, the kids are just gonna bounce too. I don't know. I feel like Tokyo, if you live in Japan and you want, like they said, better opportunities and higher education for work, you're gonna bounce to Tokyo. That's the spot. I mean, why wouldn't they want to go there? I can see the draw. Well, that's all I have for now. Make sure to let me know what you think about this video in the comments. I'll catch you on the next one. Later.